Good morning. Today I am going to show you how to construct and attach a neckband. Afterward, I am going to cover altering a neckline. Being able to alter your neckline will lend you more versatility in regard to your pattern choice. You may see a top or a dress that you love, but the neckline isn't as you would prefer for your individual style. So I am going to show you how to alter that neckline and recalculate for your new neckband so that next time you can have a little bit more confidence when you move forward with altering a pattern. Let's go ahead and get started with our standard neckband. The first step in attaching your neckband is to find the right side of the fabric. I have the short end, and I make sure that the neckband is not twisted. I meet up the right sides of the short ends, right sides together, and sew with whatever seam allowance your pattern is using across the short end. So now you have a loop, which is your neckband. Now the next step is an extra step that I always take when attaching my bands. I baste the free edge of the band with my serger. So I fold wrong sides together to create your band, and then I sew along the free edge, connecting the two pieces together, but not removing any of the fabric. I keep the knife just to the right of my free edge, allowing the serger stitches to catch the fabric but not remove any of it. I now have my band basted, and this simply allows a greater freedom when attaching my waistband or my neckband. The edges don't curl, I can stretch, and it just gives me a little bit more control. So now we are going to line up the neckband on our garment. So first we're going to find the quarter points on our neckline. Center back, center front, and then the midway point between those on either side. So I'm going to put a clip at center back and a clip at center front, and then I'm going to put these two clips together. Now I'm going to line up my neckline from the center front and center back, following it all the way out to find the midway point and place a clip. You'll do the same thing on the other side. Follow it all the way out and place a clip. Now I'm going to release center front and remark it there. So now I have my quarter marks, center back and front, and the midway points. And I'm going to mark the quarter points of my neckband. Center back is always the seam where the band is connected. Center front is opposite. And then place those two clips together to find each midpoint. There. And now you simply need to match them up with the garment that you see here. Make sure that you place your seam at center back so it doesn't end up in the front. So you will slide your neckband behind under the fabric at center back and clip. Keep your neckband straight so it doesn't twist. And you are now going to place the neckband atop the fabric at the midpoint. So line up your clips, transfer, make sure your neckband is straight, transfer your clip, and again at center front, atop the neckline fabric. You always want your neckband to be adhered to the right side of the fabric. So then when you turn it, you can see it like that. So now you can see that my neckband is shorter than my neckline, and it will need to be stretched in order to be the same length as I'm attaching it. Now, if you're new to neckbands, you may wish to pin in between those that we have right now. So for instance, center back and the midway point, I stretch until the neckline and the neckband are the same length, and I pinch halfway in between and place a clip. And you can do that all the way around. Simply stretch until they are the same length and place a clip. As you become more comfortable with neckbands, quarter points will probably be all that you need, but better safe than sorry. So now I'm going to begin sewing. At center back, at my neckband seam, I'm going to begin serging, and I'm going to stretch my neckband just slightly so that it is the same length as my neckline. I do not want to stretch the fabric of my garment, only the neckband, or else you could get wavy seams. I'm going to show you a quick example of stretching the neckband to fit. And you can see my clip here and my neckband. I simply stretch just slightly until they're the same length, and then I line them up so that the free edges line up perfectly, and then I keep that in line with the edge of my serger. I work in very small increments. Again, line them up, line it up with the edge of your serger. And I work in probably 2-inch increments. Rearrange, grab your next point, stretch. It is important to remove the same amount in your seam allowance all the way around, or else your neckband will have thin and thick places. So keeping it in line with the edge of your serger is a perfect way to do that. Work slowly in small increments until you go all the way around. It's better for it to take you twice as long to attach than to have a garment that looks poorly constructed. You now have this beautiful neckband that is attached. It has no puckering. Give it a quick press. If you do end up with a little bit of puckering, sometimes hitting it with a steam iron can help relax the stitches and help it to release a little bit. So now let's talk about altering your neckline. If you want your neckline to be lower or wider, you can simply cut out the pattern as the pattern piece indicates. Construct the garment, but leave off the bands, and then try the garment on. We will then decide how we want to alter the garment and then remove any excess portion of the neckline. If you wish to raise the neckline, it's a little bit different, and I'll cover that in just a minute when we're at the cutting table. The first step in altering a neckline is to determine exactly how you want it to be different. So here I have a simple tank top pattern, and the neckline on this pattern is a little bit higher than what I would prefer on my finished garment. So you need to keep in mind that you will have the neckband, which will be, if you cut a 2-inch band, 2 inches in width, you're going to have another ½ inches all the way around the circumference of the neckline, and it's also going to cinch the neckline in just slightly, kind of draw it in a little bit. So the neckline is actually going to be even smaller or tighter than what you see here. So I have a fabric marker, and I'm going to determine how I would like to alter this. Now, you don't need to just look at the depth of the neckline, but also the width. I like to start at my shoulder seam and come more straight down, curving inward and really only deepening the neckline by about 1/2 inch. So I'm not going to mark it here. It's a little difficult on video, but I am going to mark about 1/2 inch down, a little bit to the side, and straight down with a fabric marker, and then I'll meet you at the cutting table and I'll show you how I go ahead and cut. So now we're going to take a look at lowering a neckline. Now I've drawn in with my fabric marker how I want to come straight down from the arm seam, the shoulder seam, and around, but we're going to fold the garment in half. So I'm going to line up the shoulder seams and find the center front of the neckline. If you are constructing a garment with sleeves, the sleeves will already be attached, and it will make this step just a little bit more cumbersome, but certainly not impossible. I alter the necklines of garments with sleeves all the time. So the important thing is that you have center front here, that your neckline is perfectly lined up, and that all of this area here is flat. If you have wrinkling back here, that's fine. However, you need to bunch up the garment so that your marked area is completely flat and straight. Now I'm simply going to cut from the center seam. Now you want to begin your line completely horizontal to the pattern. If you begin at an angle, then you will have a point here. If you go this way, then you'll have a little clover leaf point there. So you want to start completely horizontal and curve upward toward the shoulder seam. So begin horizontal. Once you make the cut, you can begin gently curving. You can always start small with the amount that you are removing, because you can always remove more, but you can't add it back. So once I've gotten to about here, I am going to stabilize this portion with my hand and help lay the shoulder seam flat. Now, it looks as if the garment is very bunched up, but the only area that I am concerned with is the neckline itself. So as long as the shoulder seam and the neckline going toward the back neck, your raw edges are matched up and flush, and everything is flat, then that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and curve this around the shoulder seam, grading it out to nothing, so it makes a smooth curve there. Remove my piece, and then take a look at my new neckline. Just like that. Now before we calculate our new neckband, let's talk for a minute about raising a neckline. You see all of those beautiful boutique dresses with the high neckline, and the pattern you may want to use has a lower neckline. So I'm going to show you, for example, I have the essential tank here. So I'm going to lay it out here. Now what you need to do if you plan on raising a neckline is raise it up further than what you anticipate you will want your finished garment to be. So for instance, I would start about here. I would curve in and up to the shoulder point and cut out the rest of the garment as the pattern indicates. The neckline will be very high. After you sew your shoulder seams and your side seams, you will be able to try it on and then mark exactly where you want it and remove the excess. So you'll always be lowering the neckline to find the perfect neckline. So you have to start very high if you wish to raise the neckline, if that makes sense. So start way up here. We are now going to calculate for the length of our new neckband. First, we will need to measure the circumference of our neckline. I always lay my garment out flat with the side seams of each armpit laid out perfectly flat and the shoulder seams laid out so that the seam is at the very top. Now we are going to be measuring from the shoulder seam down and around to the other side, but we're not going to be measuring right against the raw edge. We're going to be measuring about 1/4 of an inch back. And this is to accommodate for the seam allowance, to find the true circumference of the neckline after the seam allowance has been removed. So I start at the top and I measure down to about there. I place my thumb on the tape measure and I pivot just slightly, move down and pivot, and this is my method for measuring a round neckline with a straight tape measure. Simply continue to pivot all the way around to the other side, and I am now at 22 inches at the other shoulder seam. Now I'm going to begin with 22 inches again here and measure the back about 1/4 of an inch in. So I start here at 22 inches, pivot around the curve, and I am meeting back up at my other shoulder seam at 30 3/4 inches. So now to calculate the length of the new neckband, you take the measurement of the circumference of your neckline and multiply that. I do it by 0.85, which is 85%. Some people choose to do 80% and some people choose 90. I do 85% and I don't add any additional to accommodate for the seam allowance of the neckband. So the length of the neckband actually comes out just slightly less than 85%. So this is the method that always works well for me. If I'm using a material for my neckband that has a low stretch percentage, I will sometimes bump it up to 0.90, but 85 is my standard. So that would give me a neckband of 26.14, and I will cut a 26-inch neckband. Now for my neckband, I'm going to be using MVC, micro viscose cotton. It's one of my favorite fabrics to use for bands. You can always use, for instance, my tank is French terry, and I can use French terry. I just wanted a little bit of a different look, and I love the stability of the MVC. So I have my fabric folded over here with the greatest stretch running this way from selvage to selvage. You always want to cut your neckbands running in the direction of the greatest stretch. Now the ruler that I'm using is a tool that I've had for years. I picked up at Joann's in the quilting section, and it cuts strips in 1/2 inch increments. I cut my bands 2 inches in width. For a slightly different look, every now and then I'll do a thicker or a more narrow band, but 2 inches is my standard. So now we have our 2 inches in width, and we need 26 inches in length. Okay, so I have 26 inches in length by 2 inches in width, And we'll now go attach our neckband to our garment. So you can see here my new altered neckline with my bands attached. I didn't lower it considerably, I only lowered it about 1/2 inch. The main change that I made was to widen it a little bit, which narrowed the straps, which is the look that I would prefer. So I hope that this tutorial gives you a little bit of confidence the next time you look at a pattern and you wish that it was just a little bit different, to go ahead and take that leap and change the pattern to meet your individual style.